Hello, I'm Jackie Ware.
And I'm Joe Bailey.
And you're watching episode 15 of On Air with Jackie Ware. Welcome to On Air with Jackie Ware, where we dive into conversations shaping the multifamily industry. Today, I'm joined by Joe, the founder and CEO of Swift Bunny, a company dedicated to turning employee feedback into operational wins. Together, we'll explore how listening to our teams can fuel stronger performances, better communities, and happier residents. And you'll notice today we're here on our remote location at one of our beautiful communities here in Atlanta. All right, Joe, let's start with your background a little bit.
Oh, Lord.
You've spent many years in the multifamily industry. Yep. What first inspired you to build a career in the industry?
Two things. One was money,
yeah,
and the second was a hurricane. In 1980, I've been in the industry 44 years now. In 1980, I was in graduate school in neurophysiology, and Ronald Reagan had just become president. And he took away all the funding to our area, so there was all the funding, all the jobs, everything dried up. And I was working for Marriott at the time, and I was a part-time bartender at Marriott, which, of course, teaches you a lot about multifamily right there.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was doing that. I sent my curriculum vitae out and got a job offer for $14,000 from a guy in Calgary, Canada, studying retinal ganglion and goldfish. Seriously, I'm not kidding. And he offered me $14,000 a year. At the time, I was a bartender, part-time, making $20. And I called my father up. I said, "Dad, something's wrong here. This is just not right." So I dropped out of graduate school at that point. I started working for Marriott full-time. And it turned out to be a great career choice. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed the interactions. It was great. So I was in hotels for about 5 years. And then finally, I got into resorts. I was at Wild Dunes in Charleston, South Carolina. I don't know if you know that place or not. But I was in charge of the rooms program there. And Hurricane Hugo came through in September of 1989. And I didn't have anything left to manage after it was all said and done. And I had 300 people I had to let go, including myself.
Oh, that's awful.
It's horrible. It's the worst thing in the world. But I had a job offer from Maryland Investment Company, one of the original 4 apartment REITs, who you know really well from your family history. Yes. And so I started and moved back to Augusta, where the company was based, which is where my family was, which is great. So a lot of coincidences all came together to make it all work out. But we started there, and I've been at Maryland. I was there all the way up to the end. We sold to Equity in 1998. And then I started Grace Hill. I ran that for 17 years. And then we sold it, and I was out for about a year. My wife told me I had to get back out of the house and do something. She was not happy with me staying at home all the time. And I was playing a lot of golf, too, which was not good. So we started Swift Bunny, and Kara Rice and I, Kara, and she was supposed to be on this podcast today, unfortunately couldn't make it. But she and I had the idea to crank this thing up and start it. And then later we brought in Jen Picotti and Doug Miller, who had been at Satisfax for years, and we got into the survey business, which at the time I didn't know a darn thing about. Doug Miller has done more surveys in multifamily for both residents and employees than anybody on the planet. So we were really happy to get him on board, and that's where all this started from. And here it is today. We're probably the leading surveyor of both employees and residents out there in the marketplace.
Well, you have to tell me, where did the name Swift Bunny come from?
Oh, Lord, here we go. I knew you were going to ask that.
Yeah, I love it, because I remember the first time I heard it. I remember everything about it. So tell me a little bit about that.
So my chief operating officer, Jefferson Morris, he and I worked together since the early days of Maryland, going way back. His girlfriend at the time, she called me up. She wanted to have a 41st birthday party for him at my house. And I said, fine, let's go to lunch and we'll sit down. I get my wife, we'll all go to lunch and sit down and talk about what it is we could do for this party. And we got to lunch, and my wife loves animals and his girlfriend loves animals, and they started talking about animals. And for 2 hours, we talked about rabbits. I got back home later that afternoon. I had to incorporate the company. I was planning on doing it that afternoon, and we hadn't come up with a name. And I had bunnies on the brain.
Stop it. I had bunnies on the brain.
I had bunnies on the brain. I said, well, if it's going to be a bunny, what kind of bunny would you want to be? Would you want to be a fast one, a swift one? And so that's where the name came from.
I love it. I did not think that was going to be the story, but okay. I love it. So before founding Swift Bunny, there were moments in your career you saw firsthand how employee feedback or lack thereof could make or break an organization. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that really started with Grace Hill back in the day. when towards the end of Maryland, I had some experiences that just drove me nuts. And you can relate to this. I know you've seen this before. You talk to somebody about one of your managers, say, do a market survey for me, collect some data, find out what's going on in the marketplace. People wouldn't share data. They just didn't want to do it. They were worried about consequences from the home office or somebody getting on them about it. So they wouldn't tell you anything. There was no sharing of data. I couldn't stand that. It was dumb because at the end of the day, you got to set your pricing right. You could be losing money just because you don't have the right information at your disposal. So we started Grace Hill. And I know everybody thinks of Grace Hill right now as training, which it is. But in the early days, Grace Hill was like Facebook for multifamily. It was a place where you could come anonymously, share information about your market, your pricing, your market strategies, whatever you wanted to talk about with the rest of the industry. So that's really where things started when we first started Grace Hill, which was back in 1998, to give you a time frame on that. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, Joe. So what are some of the hidden costs or consequences of not listening to the on-site teams?
The biggest single cost is when you don't listen, you can't, if you don't ask the questions, you can't change anything. You can't make anything better. If you don't make things better, your employee turnover is going to go up. And everything we do is geared towards one specific thing, and that is to reduce employee turnover. The National Multi-Housing Council's top 50 list, of which Pegasus is a member of,
Thank you for noticing.
Prestigious list.
Yes.
No kidding. But this year, all the companies on that list combined will spend close to $1 billion with a B on employee turnover. It's huge. And for the rest of the industry, the number is slightly over $5.5 billion. And so at the end of the day, all this stuff translates to costs. If you're talking about ROI, you want ROI to be the best you can make it for your owner or for yourself if you're the owner. And right now, with employee turnover the way it is, it gets terrible in the sense that you lose a position. Now you go to fill that position. A lot of times you're not filling it as quick as you did, say, 3 years ago or 5 years ago or something like that. It's taken a while. And so those costs just get bigger and bigger. And it puts more stress on the rest of your team, too, because they're having to fill in the gaps for the fact that one person isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
And so you get all these consequences that kind of, it's like a snowball going downhill, and it keeps getting bigger and more problems erupt. That really is what we're trying to get at with Swift Bunny and the surveys. We're trying to get at employee turnover. How can we solve that problem or make it better for companies?
And what kind of reduction are you seeing
for most
turnover?
For most of the companies we see, the ones that have been with us the longest, we're starting to see anywhere from 10 to 15%.
That's great.
Yeah, and it translates into real money. It's right now we estimate SHRM, which is the Society for Human Resource Management. All these guys do is think about human resource subjects. So there's this pay, benefit packages, insurance, you name it, but including employee turnover. And they estimate right now that every time you lose an employee, it's going to cost you half of what that person's annual salary is. Now think about this. On site right now, NAA and multifamily insiders, they all estimate that the average cost on site for base salary is between $50,000 and $55,000 a year. And that's obviously you have some managers making more and maybe some entry-level positions making less, but 55 is about where it's at. So if SHRM is right, then that means that every time you lose an employee, it's about $25,000 to $30,000, somewhere in that range, that it's going out your door. And if it takes longer to fill that position, that number just grows. It gets bigger. That's the real issue for us. We don't use SHRM's numbers on that. We're trying to be a little more conservative. We estimate $15,000 per employee when you lose somebody. That's your cost.
Still translated into real.
It's real dollars, yeah.
Wow. So when leaders think about feedback, they often picture surveys. What are the real differences between data collection and meaningful feedback?
Data collection is easy. Anybody can do that. And when it comes to surveys, people do surveys all the time. But here's what happens. You do the survey, you pay somebody to do the survey, they generate the survey, they send it out, they collect the data on it, it's presented back to them later by whoever did the survey, they look at it and they put it in the desk drawer. That's data collection.
Yeah.
If you really want to have meaningful impact, you've got to read it, understand what it means, and then do something about it. The worst thing you can do is do a survey and then not react to what the employees have told you. They're going to complain about some things, and you have to put the hard shell on your back and just let it all go by the wayside. But at the end of the day, you got to do something about it. If you don't do something about it, it's not worth doing it in the first place, and it's going to just exacerbate a lot of the problems.
So speaking of that, you've gathered a lot of insights from countless employees across the multifamily industry. What are some of the most common themes or pain points that emerge from the data that you've seen so far?
One thing we hear all the time, and this is no big surprise, is people look at their pay and say, it's not as much as I want it to be. And we get that. You can expect that.
I feel that same way.
Yeah, me too. Believe me, I do. But beyond that, the single biggest thing we hear all the time, the number one thing is communications. They don't think that internally within their company, that communications is as good as it should be. And so we have one company in North Carolina, Apartment Dynamics, Mary Gwen up there. She's great. And she heard this from her teams. And so she started doing weekly calls with the entire team and just talking about 15, 20 minutes. We're not talking about a huge production here, just a short call to say, here's what's going on this week. This is what's going on. We're doing this, we're doing that, et cetera. And their teams love it. And their engagement scores have gone up accordingly.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. I love that you can track it. I mean, I think that is so meaningful.
If you can't track it, it's the old saying, if you can't track it, you can't manage it.
Correct.
And that's exactly what's going on here. We're now tracking things that people never tracked before. And we're seeing stuff, we're seeing trends and issues and things. But communications is probably number one on the list. Number two on the list, though, this is surprising. Number two on the list is that people don't see or understand their path forward. So, for example, if you hire a leasing agent and they've been with you for a year and they're doing a good job, and now they want to move up. They want to be a manager or an assistant manager. They want to be a regional or trainer. They want to do something else. How do you get from point A to point? A lot of companies don't make that clear, and that creates problems.
Yeah, want to be certain about your path for sure.
And if they can't get certain about, if they can't see the path, if they can't understand how they're going to get better or move up and have more responsibility, more pay, more benefits, et cetera, they'll go somewhere else. They'll do it in a heartbeat.
Where that can be a clear path.
Yep.
I agree with you. Can you share a story about where feedback directly led to an operational improvement?
Yep.
Maybe something that surprised a client or maybe even you?
I'll tell you something that was really simple. This is stupid simple, but it worked. It was right here in Atlanta, Georgia. I won't tell you the name of the company, but I'll leave this one off the table. But they did a survey and they found out through the survey that a lot of their maintenance technicians were complaining because they didn't have the right tools. And just as simple as I don't have a drill driver. I don't have a bit set where I can drive a screw into something. So they went out and they bought a bunch of drill drivers from Home Depot along with some bit sets. I don't know what the total cost was. It wasn't very much. But they went out and they gave these sets to all these new employees and the existing ones too. And it just made their day. The guys, they just got so excited about this because now they had the right tools and they had new tools, and guys love tools. That's what they just do.
They do. They always want new tools.
They do. And so their engagement scores again went up because of that. It was a good deal.
Something simple.
And when engagement scores go up, performance go up. And when you see performance go up, you get better results out of the property, guaranteed.
Love it. So how do you help leaders move from we hear you to we change this because of you?
We're trying to explain to folks that when they get the survey results back, they should look at the results. They need to communicate back to the people on site. Just need to say, we heard you. This is what we heard you say in the surveys, and here's what we're going to do about it. And you have to follow this all the way through to the end. So whatever the change is, like with this company that bought the bits and the drill drivers for these maintenance technicians, that was easy to demonstrate that. They were sitting there with new tools in their hands. They got that. But whatever you're doing, you need to make sure that the team understands that you took them seriously, you listened to what they had to say, and you did something about it. And talk about that. Don't assume they understand what you
Connect the dots for them.
Connect the dots, exactly. Okay. It sounds like obvious, but when you tell people that, and I'll tell you something else too, with the company that did the drill drivers and the bits for their maintenance technicians, they told the rest of the team about what they did as well. It just fortifies the fact that we are listening to what you guys are saying. It may not have affected a leasing agent because they don't use that, but nonetheless, they heard what we had to say. They listened to us.
But it does. The resident in return then doesn't complain to the leasing agent about a different work order or come in and complain. So it does have a direct connection.
It really does.
And it probably really encourages people to continue to do the survey. They're happy to get them, and they're happy to give meaningful information so that they can get hopefully something positive in return about it.
Yeah.
So let's move on to kind of culture and leadership, because I think that's a big part of your surveys here. How can executives create a culture where employees feel safe being honest in feedback and when it's critical?
They can't do it by themselves. They just can't. They can try, but at the end of the day, when you do a survey, there are a lot of companies that, I have a brother-in-law, he works for Club Car in Augusta Golf Club, and they do a survey every year, one survey a year. That's it. And they do all their employees. But the people in the company are afraid to answer the surveys. They're afraid of retribution from the executive team. It's a shame. They've got good things to say, and they're smart folks, good people, but they don't do it. In our case, With Swift Bunny, we're a third party. And when we start with a client, we tell them up front, we tell all the employees up front that their responses are strictly confidential. We know who they are. I know exactly what every single employee said, but we do not share that with management team.
I think that's important.
Yeah, because the minute they think we are doing that, the gig's up. It's all over. And so you have to let them know that and let them understand that and really stand by it. You can't let that go. If that happens, it just won't work anymore.
With your platform, are you able to stack the data like by state or by leader when you're trying to find pinpoint things where you may not know who said what, but you're able to analyze the data in that fashion?
No, we can sort by position, we can sort by property, we can sort by regions, however your company's structured, whether you have districts, regions, properties, et cetera, any way you want to cut it, you can slice and dice it any way you want to.
Okay, great. What role does transparency play in turning feedback into trust?
Transparency is huge in the sense that they need to understand what's going on. The employees sometimes feel like they're left out of everything. They do. They're not part of the executive team. They're not at your corporate office all the time. And it's funny because you as an executive, you're going to make decisions every day, and your entire team's going to make decisions every day. And they're going to affect everybody in the company. But sometimes they need to know about this. They need to understand what's going on. When you find stuff, when you survey a group of people and you find out that there's certain things going on, having the transparency to show those results and talk about those results with folks, you may have a great solution, or you think you have a great solution for a problem that the survey presented to you or showed you, but it may not be the best solution. Why not listen to your regionals? Why not listen to some property managers, some experienced people on your team, and get their input and make the whole process completely transparent to your leadership, all the way down to the property level.
I think that's great because I do think you're right. We've done that. We've put in policies or things that we thought would help give better structure or improve. We hear your feedback. We put something into place, and then we find out, it didn't work right, or it wasn't really what they wanted, or got to the root of the problem. So I think that's very common that you make an assumption of what you think the answer is going to be for your team.
Yeah, and it's on top of that too. I think, and I've been guilty of this in my past careers, make a decision at the executive level, and I just automatically assume everybody's going to understand it.
Yeah.
It's going to
They're going to connect the dots. They're going to see it. It's going to change their life, and they're going to love you forever.
It's going to be in the atmosphere, and it's just going to suck into their skin's osmosis or something into them. And it doesn't work that way. You have to be transparent and specific.
So for leaders who are new to feedback programs, what's one small high impact action that they can take this quarter to start seeing results, or even maybe in Q1 of next year?
Let me put it this way. A lot of companies will do an annual survey. So they'll survey at the beginning of the year. Now think about this. You wait an entire year and you survey again. So what's happened is you have a beginning and an end point, but there's 12 months in between. A lot of stuff could have happened in between those 2 points in time. And it's important. What we do is we don't just survey, we have life cycle surveys. So we're surveying people on their birthdays, on their work anniversaries, if they get promoted, when they're first hired. We're looking at the new hire surveys. We have a whole series of surveys just for the new hires, so you understand what's going on in those first 90 days. And that's so important. If you don't do a good job of onboarding people in those first 90 days, you're going to lose them, more than likely. And it's almost 20%. Poor jobs and onboarding result in about a 20% loss in the first 90 days.
And that's huge.
And so you're back to square one.
Yeah.
Trying to find somebody to replace that person.
Using up all your resources. For us, our clients are frustrated with turnover. They don't like to see they get attached to people. They don't want to see them leave, or they want to know that they have someone they can count on. Yeah, for sure. So looking forward or looking ahead, where do you see the future of employee feedback heading, and how is Swift Bunny evolving to stay ahead of that curve?
It's not just feedback. It's more along the lines of looking at what's going on with the employee populations of different companies. One of the things we were talking about just before we started this broadcast today, we were talking about the fact that we've got an onboarding system for employees. We have an offboarding system for employees. We also have a career development system for employees that sits in the middle between when you hire them and when they eventually leave your company. That's pretty cool. And it takes a huge load off of the executive team in terms, they want to make sure to track and know that people are being onboarded properly. And you're going to have your own idea of what a proper onboarding is. You're going to say, I want to see this and this all happen. And if I do all that, then I've done a good job. And it's your call, obviously, to make that decision. Any company's going to have their own opinion about it. But you got to do that good job to really make sure that happens in the right way. The other thing we're doing too is also with property onboarding and offboarding. We're doing the same concept, except it's not related to the people as much as it is the property itself. You bring on a brand new property into the Pegasus portfolio. Great. What are all the things you need to do to bring that into the portfolio to indoctrinate the new employees into the Pegasus way of doing things?
Yeah.
You want to do that. You want to bring them into the family. You want to make sure they understand what you're all about, what the company's all about, what your mission is, what you're really trying to do, how you manage, what the opportunities are, all these kind of things. And in some ways, a lot of this stuff is related to people, but it's more about bringing a brand new property on board. And also the same when you lose a property too. I know y'all don't lose any, but
we don't, Joe.
If you lose a property, there's things you need to do. Right before this, we were talking about, I've got executives out there that we were discussing this very thing with, and they say, a year has gone by and I suddenly realized I'm still paying for the utilities in the maintenance shop for that property we lost a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
It's just these little things, they fall between the cracks.
Yeah, they do.
And somebody doesn't know about it. And now you got to make up for it.
Got to go back to the old-fashioned checklist.
Yes.
That's what I always find. Just we're like, okay, we have all these automations for things, and then there's something that we're like, whoa, we just got to go back to the checklist.
Let me ask you this question. So let's say you hired me today. You're a manager on site. I'm a leasing agent candidate, and you just hired me. Now, you get handed a checklist of 50 things, 50 things that you've got to take care of. You got to make sure happen for me to be onboarded into Pegasus. Now, you don't do these things. You're just responsible for checking the list. You've got to make sure that so-and-so does this for me. And just for example, if I need a Pegasus email address, you're going to call somebody, and I don't know how you do that,
Yep.
Pegasus, but you call somebody in IT probably and say, hey, we just hired Joe Bailey. He starts in a week. He's going to need a Pegasus email address. What happens when you call up there and you can't get anybody on the phone? You leave a message, you email them, there's no response. Suddenly then this is just one task.
One person, yeah.
And one person. So now suddenly all these things that you need to do, that you think you need to do to make me a new Pegasus employee and get me off on the right foot, suddenly it's just eating into every bit of your time. And this is just one person and one task. And it could be 50. We have companies that we know have created lists, task lists, onboarding checklists that are at least 50 items long.
Wow.
And so all kind of little things that need to be done. We love this stuff because if you do a good job with this, you've got an employee for life.
Yeah, they're happy.
They're happy. They're off on the right foot too.
Yeah.
And so the performance from day one is going to be better. The attitude's going to be better. It's just a better thing all the way around for the company.
I agree.
Yeah.
These were our series of questions, but I did want to leave it up to you if there was anything else you wanted to add about the survey feedback culture, or just anything in general for our listeners to hear.
No, we've got a lot of research that we do and we promote, and we send this stuff out to all the speakers around the country. And they'll take these things and go to different meetings and present results. We're big on doing that. We've got the 2025 employee risk report out right now. We've got the 2025 new hire risk report out right now. And something we just did, which is absolutely awesome, is Mark Kukro, right? Mark is probably the best maintenance-based lecturer out there right now. He was a maintenance man in his life. He understands the culture. He understands how it works. And he's uncovering all kind of really cool stuff. And he's talking about it. We just did a survey for him, several thousand people around the country, all maintenance related. And the results were really cool. And it's all available. It's free of charge. It's on our website. You can go there and get it. But this is stuff we're sharing with other lecturers around the country. So we're spreading the word on what we're finding, what all these different surveys are doing for us. And with Doug Miller, we've got, with Doug kind of running things in terms of the surveys themselves, the guy's so good at what he does. He's been doing it forever, and he's just done a great job for us. He's kind of our secret weapon in a way when it comes to the surveys. There's nobody better than Doug right now.
Love a secret weapon.
Oh yeah, he's the best thing in the world.
I'll definitely go check out Swift Bunny's website to check out the resources. I didn't know that was available. Thank you for sharing that.
I'll make sure you get a copy of it. You won't have to go look at it. I'll email it to you. How about that?
Thank you so much.
You're
You're
welcome.
the best. Thank you for your time today.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you.
It's been fun. Appreciate it.
Bye.